I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.
Welcome to Cookies, the world's most influential basketball podcast. I am Ben Dietrich. Jordan Rodelli is on vacation, but Andrew Kuo, nothing at all can keep this man from potting. Andrew, how are you on this gorgeous Wednesday evening?
I'm just a fiend for pods, man. I'm feeling amazing. I'm potting with you. I'm watching the Knicks take a confident 3-point lead over the failing Boston Celtics. You know, life is good, man. Can't complain.
I was wondering, because I was first going to praise you for potting while the Knicks Celtics game was going on, and then I realized that you're still watching it and you might be distracted boyfriend meme.
So I'm one of those guys who has like the TV on and the same thing on a laptop, and then on an iPad, just like lying it down in the kitchen, the same thing on. So if I have to go to the bathroom, which isn't far from my big TV in New York, I still have screens to see what's up. It's basically a sports bar vibe up in here.
But this is not going to distract you from delivering the perfect pod. I just want that, I want to be assured that your potting will be on par with your typical level of potting.
After a few hundred pods, I've always wondered if I wouldn't top the last perfect pod, but it's never happened. It's always better. So it would be the first time I potted worse than before.
It'll never happen.
It just will never happen.
The odds are just so low that you would not be a superior potter to your previous one. So rest assured, gentle listeners and our beloved Patreon subscribers, Quo will be in tip-top form, absolutely perfect, no matter what.
Is water wet?
Dude, I cannot wait for these forthcoming water wars.
Tell me
oil
more.
is over, man. It's all about securing the water supply.
That already happened, right? That happened a few decades ago.
I think Nestle got it.
Fucking, yo, that was some dastardly shit. But, remember there was that 16 Minutes story about how water was going to be more valuable than oil? And this was, in the 90s, I believe. And it happened right after that. I think, the retail cost of whatever, I don't know, want to get into the weeds here inside baseball, but I think clean water surpassed the value of crude oil, maybe.
Oh, well, so anyway, old news, guys.
But I want to know more about this water war, because it sounds like you're talking about one of the greatest films of all time, Waterworld, and all that piques my interest. So go off, King.
I just read something where they said, in the future, we're going to fight wars over water. And I was like, wow, that also reminds me of a Kevin Costner movie where they're on rickety barges floating around in the water.
Was that movie in any way about Scientology? Because it feels like every movie in that era was about Scientology.
Or was it just... I don't know if there was a parable there. It felt like it was just doing Mad Max, but on the high seas.
Oh, I love that. Some Jasper John stuff, right? Take something and do something to it. Just put it in water. Make it about water. Take this Knicks team and put them in water, man.
Take this meal, eat it over the sink.
And then take that meal and eat it over the toilet.
Jasper John.
That's what they call the Jasper John.
This is the stuff that you can't prepare.
Oh, we're in the cipher right now, man. I'm TJ Tyler Johnson, flowing.
You are just dropping bars.
Always, man. Speaking of bars, are you ready for White Boy Summer? Are you ready to take the bar scene by storm again? Finally, White Boy Summer has returned.
I cannot wait to get out there and have a beer.
Oh, just one though. Be careful. A beer,
A
right?
singular and beer.
What a tasty one it is.
If people haven't read Nomi Fry's, a friend of the pod, guest, you can go back and listen to her episodes. Excellent.
One of the classics. perfect until the next one.
Temporarily a perfect episode.
Yeah.
Not to besmirch her performance. It was great. It was perfect at the time.
No, it's on us, man.
She wrote a great New Yorker essay, news item about Chet Hanks, and White Boy Summer. It's really funny. You should check it out if you have
Can you
not.
paraphrase that for our listeners who don't
She-
read like kings?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't read it. I had it read to me.
Nice. By Nomi, probably.
But the whole she talks about Chet Hanks announcing that this was going to be a White Boy Summer, not for frat bros, but for John B. style whites. And she kind of goes through his social media posts, and by the end, she's terrified of the ominous forthcoming White Boy Summer.
What are we looking at?
Well, that's what I want to talk about here. Everyone's saying this is going to be the craziest summer. Like, imagine what New York is going to be like. My immediate thing is to wince. I mean, like, the craziest summers in New York. Did you like those? Not 100% sure I did.
Like, what are we talking about? The craziest summers? I don't know if I've been a part of a necessarily craziest summer of New York. Where like, I just think of like the summer of Sam, right? And that was in the movies. That didn't actually happen, right? John Leguizamo wasn't chilling.
Well, what I'm saying here is that you can have individually a crazy summer. Sure.
Oh,
that's on you. Yeah. You have and you will.
The kids call it turning up.
It's more the collective idea of like New York is going to be bonkers. Like, so you know how we used to complain about everyone would come in from Jersey and Long Island and the city would be a mess and you couldn't go out to dinner, couldn't go out to a bar, couldn't even walk the streets like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Everyone bitched and moaned about that constantly. And now we're like, oh, I can't wait for the resumption of what we griped about constantly. People bought houses upstate just to avoid New York gone crazy.
I think that's such like a New York thing, though, right? Like, the Knicks are the Knicks for a reason because they take on the characteristics of this whiny ass city, a city I love and call home. But we're whiners, and that's all good. But I agree with you. First, we're whining about bridge and tunnel, and then we're not. There's not enough bridge and tunnel. I can't even figure out what bridge and tunnel meant. They just meant like someone you didn't like from New Jersey.
It's amazing that that phrase just vanished. It's gone. No one ever says like B and T. How was the spot? Oh, it's a little B and T. No one. When's the last time you heard that?
Why is that, do you think? Do you think that's because people with money invaded New York in the Bloomberg era? Or, like, they just have more luxury apartments? The Lower East Side had their, like, air rights removed, and all these high-rises went up, and that's at least a dozen people from New Jersey.
I would say that the kind of people who used to use the phrase B and T, one, got so old that they stopped going out. B, moved to Brooklyn. And C, seeded Manhattan to outsiders. Or the outsiders have moved into the city.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure. Are people from Jersey and Long Island still coming into Manhattan to party? Absolutely. But it's more the absence of the people who complain about it, not the absence of the people who do it.
Yeah, I think you're onto something because, you know, when you've lived long enough, like we have, long ass time in New York City nightlife, you go to a bar, and if that bar is lucky enough, fortunate enough to weather like a decade of being in business, maybe even 2 decades, you see the clientele start from people who are like, I'm young, I'm having the best white boy summer of all time. They meet someone at their white boy summer event. They start a family and have kids, move upstairs and start complaining about the bar downstairs. I'm like, dude, you were just in here 3 years ago being like, this is the best summer ever. You're only 27 and you're calling the cops on us. There's some of that, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, I think Bridge and Tunnel was like at least 80s and 90s. at least. I don't think it was a 2000s phrase. I would just say that people moved to Brooklyn, people got old, and people started hanging out in Brooklyn on the weekends. That was when I first moved to Brooklyn, and I was in Williamsburg. This is a while back. And I was like, this is amazing. I can actually stay in my own neighborhood and hang out on Friday and Saturday and be around people that I want to see, etc. And then, of course, the same thing happened to Williamsburg that happened to other parts of downtown New York. But once you opt out of that, you stop complaining about the bridge in the tunnel.
Also, not for nothing, all those clubs on the west side shut down, right? Like, they had a nightlife person shutting them down one by one. So there wasn't really a reason. Like, if you're having one of the best summers of your life,
like the ultimate white boy summer.
It's like white hot summer, right? And you were like, I wanna do something this Saturday night. You're not driving in to go to One Oak because you can't get into One Oak. Back in the day, there was clubs that you can get into. Like, it's not really the same scene anymore, right?
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know. Is it just go to the East Village and roam the streets? Right. Is it go to Sushi Samba? Is it?
Yeah. Well, our generation was definitely
Murray
the one.
Hill?
Right. Like, when we were gallivanting around town, I think the move for our tranquil generation was to take the bar and turn it into a club, right? I think that kind of became a thing. Every bar got a DJ. Every bar started getting bouncers. Every bar had like dancing kind of on Fridays and Saturdays, which wasn't really the case in Bridge and Tunnel eras, right? A bar was like a sleepy place or a crowded place you get like a martini at or a beer. And then clubs were just clubs, and there was many clubs to choose from.
Right. Then there was the rise of the lounge, and that was the sort of connective tissue between, well, I guess our bar could have a DJ and people could dance in here.
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of like the three-pointer, right? Bars are like, wait, we could just turn the music a bit higher and have better music playing.
Like women will be willing to step within these walls if there's music and dancing, and it won't be a bunch of sad men weeping into their Guinnesses. Okay, that's the plan.
A step-by-step way to get your bar popping, in my opinion, is like, first you have to get the LGBTQ scene to be into you, because after them, everything else follows. It becomes like kind of like a good vibe place, and then women go there because it's like not a bunch of dudes, and then the dudes are the last ones to figure things out, and by that time you probably should switch it up and try to get them out of there again.
I wrote a story about the rise of electronic dance clubs in New York. Let's say this is 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And I spoke with Peter Gatien, who was
legend,
the one-eyed club overseer for basically all of New York City for a period of time. Been shouted out by like Jay-Z, was an enemy of Rudy Giuliani.
Who isn't?
Sure. But his clubs were the Tunnel, Club USA, Limelight. I mean, the big dogs of the last huge club era. So I spoke with him over the phone about the trend of dance clubs reopening, albeit not on the same scale. And he said, I might get the math wrong, but he was like 40% gay. He's like, that was my rule, 40%, which goes to your point that like that's how you get a place that has dancing and good vibes and a fashionable clientele. It's not bring in the lads.
No, yeah, right. It's like don't make it like my apartment. Don't have the Knicks game on every screen, so it's like backlit by orange and blue. Do not do that.
But that's also a weird thing that I've never gotten. The kind of clubby sports bar, because that's a thing.
Oh my God, yeah.
I think people like it in New York a bit because it's very suburban and it's stuff that people went to in college and like outside of New York City. But the sports bar that has a zillion TVs all showing various football or basketball games with like extremely loud music playing.
And cocktails, right?
And it's jam-packed. Like that's a thing for sure. I think it is the reincarnation of the college bar in New York for people who want that experience.
Yeah, I have a tough time figuring that out. I don't think it's that popular. I can think of examples for sure. Um,
Like Murray Hill, that's like all it is. It's just enormously packed sports bars with lines outside. People buying, I don't know if it's bottle service or like huge pitchers, but
Yeah.
also really loud music. Might hear some Drake.
yeah.
You're going to hear some Drake. You're going to hear some super poppy dance music. They are jammed.
I mean, I'm workshopping this as we talk about it, but like, you know,
This
like
is your step-to-step guide.
a disco, disco music and even house music. That stuff was like a long time ago at this point, 70s and 80s, and I have no idea what the nightlife was like back then. And we hear about it through people who were around Studio 54 and the Warhol crew and all that, the Mud Club, which ended up being like Max Fish and Uli Rimkis and all that stuff. So there's a direct line to all that stuff. But I think the popularization of rap music has a lot to do with what you're talking about, because it has like this kind of macho bravado that lends itself well to sports, and a lot of that is interconnected. Like I find kind of similar joys in rap music and sports that I do more so than like house music or disco. I don't really know anything about disco, but you know what I mean? Like, I think the culture kind of like, it ushered those through. Sports became less masculine and music became more masculine. Is
I
that
think
the
there's
line?
I think there's some truth to that, but a lot of these places also have in the rotation music that I could not identify, like gun to your head. I have no idea who this is. It's just like that's the best I can do.
Hey man,
it's like-
it's either Mobb Deep or Celine Dion for you. One or
It's
the
like,
other.
it's very emotive pop. It all sounds vaguely Diplo-y.
I mean,
It's not Diplo, but it's that really glossy.
are you talking about like
trebly.
Calvin Harris? Like
It's that
you're talking
exact
like
kind
Vegas
of shit.
stuff, EDM.
Yes,
you
yes,
mean?
yes.
Oh,
Yes, it's Calvin Harris. It's brunch club. It's that kind of music, like very, very emotive pop music.
that era was amazing. I think that era is dead now for sure with the capital D, but like,
That stuff, yeah.
dude, that stuff was incredible. And I feel like the thing that really put it to bed was that New Yorker article that kind of, I think we've talked about this before, but how it detailed how strategic those nights were in Las Vegas. And that's when Calvin Harris and Rihanna had that song out, and they would time it so all the waiters and the staff would get ready for the song to drop, and as the intro was going in, they would flood the floors and take drink orders, and they would make like millions of dollars in like 15 seconds. It was just insane, like the money going around that. I think it's incredible, like the whole Arbitha, however you say it, Ibiza.
Ibiza?
Yeah, that whole thing, that whole scene, you look back at it and I'm like, it doesn't have an air of ridiculousness to me. It's like that was really fun for people who loved it. I don't know. I thought that era was kind of awesome.
I had to cover enough club events, brunch clubs, things like that were a while back.
Still
With that-
going on Delancey, man.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this was a trend that has gone away.
Yeah.
But that style of music with gratuitous spending, like we're in Saint-Tropez, Mexican
Yeah.
billionaires, Saudi money,
Yeah.
like that was a real part of New York City nightlife that had almost no resemblance to the things you were talking about before. Like it just was almost like this mutation that existed in isolation. It was almost different totally from like even bottle service, because it was such a outlier even within like get a bottle. It's like, no, we're just spending $40,000 in here.
I mean, I'm very much into like this idea of like a type 1 society where like if the internet eventually does its thing to completion, we'll all either be fluent in English or Mandarin, and there'll be one currency, and it's turning out to be like either Ethereum or Bitcoin or Doge or something like that. And that's like the theory that if we share enough information between us, we're all going to become, and it's not monoculture, it's different than that, but it's kind of a streamlining of the way we live our lives and the kind of elimination of people like, or things like the Knicks, right? It's been relegated so deep that there is no more subculture. So nightlife wasn't about like Studio 54 or whatever that was. And it's like, sorry, this party's not for you, private party, you know? Now it's just people with money. You can buy your way in. And you don't have that air of like coolness that we heard the 70s was. And I, for one, am into that because I think Warhol was kind of a jerk. So like, I'm into all this stuff kind of proliferating because it makes the subcultures even tastier.
So you like the idea of nightlife being predicated not by cool, but by money?
I like nightlife changing, and it couldn't survive the Warhol disco days. And it couldn't survive like the rap, the backpack rap days, or it couldn't survive the house thing. It had to mutate. And if it mutates far away from stuff I'm into, it pleases me because I'm not into nightlife for money kind of things. So if Obama is naming his top 20 and none of the things on his list are things I love, I'm like, good. He's the president of the United States.
Well, I agree with that. Like, I don't have any need for Obama to be a tastemaker. He was the president of the fucking United States. He doesn't need to also be like, and I drive around listening to Mobb Deep. And I'm like, wow.
But do you have any homies that went to like these clubs that people go to playing EDM? Like, you just didn't go to those clubs, right?
No,
like you
wasn't
weren't
for me.
like, yeah. So like that's what it kind of mean. There was always stuff for whatever you were looking for, and if everyone wanted to go hear Calvin Harris, I'm like, cool. That sounds awesome.
I will say, and this will come off as a bit snobbish, but I will say there has not been many places with actual, like, quote unquote tough doors in New York City in a long time. You've got your ones like One Oak or Up and Down that are like
The Four
they are
Horsemen
bottle
was trying
service
that.
clubs.
Yeah.
Yeah, the four Horsemen in Williamsburg. James Murphy's bar. They had like a guest list, and that was kind of it. And those people could come with their friends. Mm-hmm. That was like an interesting gambit. Mm-hmm. Other than that, really no spots where it was like, ooh, maybe you'll get in and show up. Paul's Baby Grand, Casablanca.
Yeah, for
maybe.
sure. What about I almost called it Spa, but what about the Standard Hotel?
Like Boom Boom Room.
For a second, right?
I mean, we're talking about a few years back, but I mean, right now, it'll be interesting to see what happens because, now everyone's like, okay, this summer's going to be insane. I'm going to the club. I didn't go to the club for the last 15 years, but this is time. It's club time. I'm like, is there one? Is there one you want to go to? Like, does that exist? I'm not sure. I actually reached out to a couple different club owners because I was just curious about this last week. Maybe I thought I could pod about it. Who can say? But I talked to one guy who owns a couple very popular, some pretty cool spots, and he's like, I'm going to open June maybe. Because right now there's still a lot of oddities with clubs can technically open up at 1/3 capacity, but only until
11. Right?
11 o'clock. And he said, why would I bother? And I talked to another guy, and he reiterated the same thing. He's just like, there doesn't seem to be any point in opening a music venue at 1/3 capacity that has to close at 11. I just don't see it. So if we're going to have nightclubs back, I would say it has to be June, July. But that said, that stuff is still going on right now. Like, there's still clubs. There are still clubs with hundreds of people on them, like in Manhattan, with DJs. Like, it's still happening. I'm surprised they're not getting shut down, but that stuff exists. There are absolutely places you could go tonight and be inside a club with a couple hundred people.
I mean, if you follow friend of the pod, the legend, Kat Marnell, she has a more exciting life than I've ever had. And you can follow the chronicles of her going to these places that like exist. And she's even written about them. I think she wrote about like an orgy she attended.
Oh yeah. But I mean, this is by all, like, I don't know if it's legal or not. This isn't just like someone's crazy loft. This is like, there's like clubs,
Yeah, I mean,
bartenders and stuff.
is this different than what we talked about throughout COVID? Like, there's places you can go and they get shut down. Some get shut down because you don't pay off the right people. But of course, there's places you can go to hang with Zoomers and with music and dancing and alcohol, especially in Ridgewood. Has it proliferated since then?
From my understanding, it is proliferated into like being kind of open as like a regular spot would be in Manhattan, except that it clearly is flouting the rules. Look, I'm not here to snitch. I'm not going to get anybody in trouble. But odd that this is happening now, but also, as you said, almost completely predictable too.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way to keep down young people, right? Like, it's just impossible.
Yeah, I'm not shaming anyone involved.
Yeah.
I'm more surprised that people aren't just waiting like a couple weeks.
Yeah. I mean, fuck. Life is short. Go out there. White boy winter. I mean,
yeah,
well,
I'm not even trying to sound like a downer. I think it's totally fine.
yeah, are you harshing them? Are you criticizing them?
No. I'm just like learning about the existence of large scale events that are happening already was more surprising because it's now and not, say, in June.
Yeah. Wasn't there a few months ago like a full on strip club was shut down? I believe in Queens.
Oh
It was
yeah,
just, like,
yeah. That's been
fully-
going on the whole time. I was
Yeah.
walking by a place. I'm not going to say where. It was in an industrial area. This is maybe a month ago. I don't think I mentioned this on Cookies, but yeah.
Wow,
Not
this
even
is
gonna
turning
say-
into The Departed over here. You're like, I don't want to snitch, but here's me snitching.
No, I'm not even going to say where it was at all. No, it's just an industrial area, and I was walking by it, and
Industrial area.
I heard a 50 Cent song, like, but muffled, like, and then I was like, that's Fifth. But this was like 4:30 in the afternoon, and I start.
Yo, you got to get
catching-
it in if they shut
And I
you
start
down at
catching like
10:30.
wafts of marijuana. I'm like, 50 Cent, marijuana, interesting.
There's
then
a
this-
bunch of 50-year-olds. Bunch of boomers hanging
Is that
out.
Tony Yayo? So
Yeah.
as I come up by the door, I kind of just glance to the side, and there's like a huge security guy, and you can see like kind of like club lights in the background, and it's all painted black, and there's like women behind them, and I was, you're running an illegal strip club in an industrial area? Oh, that's amazing! Like, and you're playing 50 Cent, and everyone's smoking weed, like in the middle of the afternoon. I honestly felt so warm. It's
Did
like
you ever-
you guys are doing it.
Did you ever go to that legendary Sunset Park club that Secession kind of had that whole episode about? It was like near train tracks, and it was guest list, and you had to go at weird times in the day, and it was like popping. Did you ever go to that thing? I know it was in Sunset. That's all I know, and I knew it was abandoned train tracks.
No, there are definitely a bunch of strip clubs out there. I don't know that one though.
This one was a fancy like nightclub vibe though, with young people. But I
went to one of them. No, I didn't go to it actually. There was a Fool's Gold party at one that I did not go to.
Shout out to Catch Dubs, classic legend.
Anyway, sorry, I had nothing to contribute to that. No, I have not been there.
So I don't know.
But you're
So-
you're a huge strip club guy. So like, where are your favorite spots?
I retired from this life years ago, man. I had not claimed this is Yellow Boy Summer for a second.
But I'm saying you're the king of the strip club. Like, what would you say is like strip club rules 101 for the perfect strip club?
I have never even set foot in a strip club.
Really?
I don't. Well, remember there was
time for a Cookies field trip once life gets back to normal.
Well, there was a legendary party back in the day, and I think I saw you there, the Pussycat Lounge. Remember Carlos through that party? And you had to walk through a strip club to get to the party, and sometimes you would have to wait. So I was in a strip club then. But I don't really know like the politics of the strip club. I feel like I'm being rude. If you like are in there for longer than a few minutes, you have to like throw dollars up, right? Like you can't just like hang out in there.
Yeah, if you're gonna like pay attention to what's happening on stage, you gotta pony up a little bit. Even if you're not in the front row getting their attention and they're dancing for you, yeah, you gotta throw a few bucks, you know. Or I mean, you've got your waitresses coming around, and maybe you could get a lap dance from them. But yeah, in that specific spot, I felt like hanging out and not chipping in a couple ones now and then was a little uncouth.
I don't have a second family in Atlanta, so I'm kind of lost here. Maybe in the second wave of my nightlife, I'll be the strip club king. I'll just know my way around those joints. It's like, no, you don't want to eat the lemon pepper wings here. You want to eat the lemon pepper wings here.
Yeah, so Andrew's second act, no one really saw it coming. He became the strip club king of Hoboken.
Okay, so explain this to me as you, the former strip club king. Why would you serve hot wings in a strip club? Doesn't that seem... Why would you serve like a spicy, messy food item in a strip club?
When I first went to a strip club that served food, I was a little bit off put. Like, but why is there food in the strip
Like
club?
the whole legs and eggs concept.
Yeah, then you realize it's just providing services to keep you there. It's Vegas.
Sure. But like, why?
Oh, you're
chicken
hungry? You want to
wings?
leave? No, there's food.
Yeah.
There's alcohol. We'll put a sports game on somewhere. Like
No
we'll
windows.
provide whatever whatever furnishings you need. You want chicken wings, then you shall have chicken wings. It's literally just supply and demand.
And chicken wings are delicious if you're into that stuff. But like,
And also, in the mainstream strip club world, I don't think you're really doing a lot of touching anyway.
no, yeah, right,
You know,
right.
so you're eating your chicken wings. It's not like, oh, that's going on an ass. No, it's not.
Right, yeah. Do you think Impossible has a market in the strip club world? Like, does
Well, considering a lot of young women work there, sure.
I wonder if that's gonna make its way there. I don't know. Just curiously thinking.
I'm saying perhaps it already has.
Yeah. Are strip clubs
Oh, I cannot wait till you're the strip club king.
okay? It'll maybe next summer will be the Yellow Boy summer. I'll declare that. Get ready.
All it takes is clearly just someone declaring it.
Yeah, I'll declare it next summer. I think.
If you
watch
declared it
this space.
now, could it supersede the existing White Boy Summer?
No, because like that's a summer anthem. As soon as one stakes its claim, you can't have two. Even though the second might be more popular, it will never be the summer anthem.
At least Jack Harlow didn't jump on it, from my knowledge, and immediately record a mixtape.
New York City is weird, and like I'm kind of dead inside a little bit. But I was walking on the platform today, and I heard the legend blaring from a corner of the subway, the J train, DMX, who is having a tough time right now, man. But like, he's had a very hard life, and he was once like the damn king of New York. I know we talk about Biggie, but DMX was the guy we really loved as well, right?
Yeah, the latest on him, as of a couple hours ago,
What's up? Did he make it?
well, there was a report that he had COVID, then that was walked back. The information seems to be pretty sketchy, dicey, unreliable. But the one main thing is that he is in a coma, and it's unclear about brain function and whether people want to leave him on or off and whether he'll recover. Like, really awful situation for him and his loved ones. I mean, not to mention the millions of fans, but like specifically for him, it is really grim.
Yeah.
But to reiterate what you were saying, he was an interesting character because he was the man, but no one thought he was like a better rapper than Biggie or Jay-Z, or necessarily as like cool as some of those other guys. But he had this other, like, almost, I guess, he kind of invented a different archetype in some ways. Like, I can't think of another guy in New York before that, and I'm not even sure about since, that had that image that was like anti, like all like the puffy stuff, anti Jay-Z, Biggie. I'm trying to think of it in basketball terms, and it's not like Tony Allen, but I'm just like, but it's hard to describe, right? Like it's a different space than the Biggie, Jay-Z, Fabulous, Mace, Puffy. He's completely different.
Yeah, and he's part of the Rough Riders crew, Rough Riders adjacent, right? And
but he also just generated them, and kind of everyone from Rough Riders who is successful in some ways was just a product of his like charisma and success.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. When he had the health scare, maybe a few years ago, I went back and I was like, I want to give this dude my own personal flowers in my own personal space. So I sat down with It's Dark and Hell Is Hot, Flesh of My Blood. Those albums have jams, but it's really hard to listen to 2 hours of DMX. I found it to be like, oh, right, like, I say I love him, but, like, I just really liked his vibe, the fact that he felt like Hours in New York. I liked some of his songs are just, like, some of the coolest sounding music ever made. But, like, as a complete artist, I can't front, right? Like, I don't really, like, go deep into DMX's catalog.
I only really liked It's Dark and Hell Is Hot.
Good record.
I thought that was a great record. I loved it. He was not my favorite artist, but I really enjoyed that record. Yeah. The other ones after that, I liked some of the singles.
Yeah. Well,
but I never like sat down and said, "Let me listen to like Blood of My Blood, Flesh of My Flesh," on more than like once or two occasions. But the first album, though, that's a banger.
Classic. And, like, he was a superstar, right? Like, him and Cameron had that thing. Here we are talking about 90s rap again. How is this happening? What's going on? Because he got sick. So, back to my point of feeling a weird kind of New York. I was on the subway tracks hearing DMX this morning, early morning. I was like, who's partying this early? Is there a secret club on this M-Train platform somewhere? Can I, like, duck down and, like, get into some cypher action? Mm-hmm. And then I found the source of the sound, and it was coming from an MTA office, and their window was just open. So people who were working very early in the morning were just jamming DMX. I'm like, oh, this makes sense, because now we're all working people. And, just like kind of digging through the memories a little bit.
Would you say that, it's very tough to find a good analog for DMX. Mm-hmm. Like, somewhat Bone Thugs, but in a totally different way. Sonically, totally different, but kind of that vibe.
You mean like they feel like they're different, right? Like
it's like a gothic, like working class sensibility in some ways.
Oh, I was going a different direction. You know how in basketball there's like gods and there's players, good players. Mm-hmm. I felt like you're talking about when you bring up Bone Thugs and DMX, like these were gods, right? These were geniuses, and they kind of felt like otherworldly dudes to me. Mm-hmm. Whereas many good rappers that I liked, like Mace and Puff, they felt grounded by the gravity of Earth. Like
DMX, I fully agree.
Yeah, DMX had this kind of superstardom to him that he didn't feel real, right?
If some deity came down and held a blade to my throat, Andrew, and they said, you have one guess only, to identify an actual angel who walked among us.
Oh, among living people.
Mm-hmm. Like you have to have one guess to identify him. You get it wrong, I'm cutting your throat.
And this is a hard exercise because it's not just my favorite person. It has to be something along the lines of
a literal angel.
This is a tough one. Why? Who do you think?
Busy Bone.
Oh yeah, he kind of doesn't exist on our astral plane, right?
Yeah, well, this profane garbage that we exist in, not Busy Bone.
Oh, what about like Wayne? Wayne just never felt like he was tethered to this life.
He may be, but my guess is still Busy Bone.
It's hard because I want to say that about Wayne, but I've seen him try to learn how to ollie, and it's just like really difficult. I'm just like, ooh, dude. Those are inside thoughts.
Anyway, I think Busy Bone is an angel.
I like that. I mean, Bone Thugs to me, 1999 Eternal, like that was a true masterpiece of art. I don't know what else to call it because it kind of like nothing else sounds close to that. It was just the most amazing sounding thing I ever heard. I don't know. Whatever.
I'm with you. I was not even an enormous fan of them. I just thought what they were doing was really interesting and cool.
Yeah. I mean, but I feel that way about new artists too. Like when I heard Young Thug, I just couldn't quite believe. Now he's old, right? But we just call him Thug now. But I couldn't believe what he was doing either. So I don't know. I mean, to backtrack to what I said about DMX and like I'm kind of heartless now. I say that because I'm like, that dude has lived like a greater life than anybody. I don't know. Like his life has been spectacular and he's dodged like death so many times. If this is what finally does him in, yo, shout out to DMX, man. He did it, right? Like I'm not sad. This dude, yo, go out like that. That's amazing.
Well, I mean, I understand the sentiment here, but he's also not very old and he has 15 kids.
But gods have no age.
His significance as a musician and how we think of him are going to remain intact no matter what. But I don't know. I don't want to be that cavalier, man. Like
I'm not being cavalier, but like I don't think like
I'm with celebrating his life and not mourning his death in that way. I get that idea.
Yeah, and like this is like an old rock and roll trope, right? Like the Who. I hope I die before I get old. Like whatever, And then you have the 27 Club, and like, I don't know. Like I always think about this in terms of NBA draft picks, right? Like if you are Michael Olowokandi, you did it, man. That's incredible. You were good enough to be a #1 overall pick in the National Basketball Association. Just incredible. It didn't quite pan out for you, but your legacy should be fine. But it isn't because people, are smart and they compare things to other things. And some #1 picks aren't busts. And some artists like DMX have longer careers and don't burn out the same way. But like, if we sever our framework of what we do in this life to how old we are, then like I think it kind of frees us a little bit.
I think that's true. I mean, there's no way despite the hardships that DMX went through as a child and as a person, you have no way to look at that without saying that was a life well spent.
For sure. Yeah. I don't hope anyone dies. I hope everyone lives forever. But
I know. Yes, I know you don't.
But I don't know. When I heard DMX was gravely ill, I was not shocked, sad, but then kind of like felt good about him. Do you know what I mean? It was a weird feeling.
Yeah, you're forced to confront like your ultimate feelings about someone when their mortality is jeopardized.
Yeah.
And in much the same way, I think the recent ketchup shortage made you contemplate your relationship with that savory topping.
I'm down for ketchup. You know this. I when I was a kid, I used to eat ketchup on pasta. Who didn't? Was it bucatini? No, because I was a regular Joe with my hard hat eating spaghetti, linguine.
I had some bucatini yesterday.
Oh my God! Are you in Bridge and Tunnel? You're pro Bridge and Tunnel, anti clubs, and eating bucatini. What is going on?
I had one package left.
Oh,
last couple times I've gone to the store, I haven't seen bucatine one. I had this bucatine sitting around for months. I'm like
legacy bucatine, right?
One bucatine, blew it off.
Yeah, dusted it off.
COVID dust flying everywhere. I'm like, ooh, forgot to wash that back in last March.
So how did you prepare it? What was the secret sauce?
It was not a secret sauce. I might get the pronunciation wrong, as I'm liable to do, but the amatriasa? Is that how you would say it?
I believe so. I'm not sure what you're. Go on. Just go on. Yeah.
Amatriciana.
I'm not sure what you're talking about, but what was it?
Alamatraciana.
Oh, that amateur-ciana.
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
You love that shit.
Yeah. Tight, right.
It's you're using a. You could use bacon or any of their pancetta, any of their various little, pork cured products. A lot of onion, tomato sauce, some spicy red chili flakes or red pepper. That's all you're doing. Some Parmesan, some Romano. It's a classic, absolutely delicious. You should try it.
Sounds awesome, man. If I ever get my hands on some bucatine.
If only,
Yeah.
but I had the last of it.
Oh, those ancient, next to the ancient grains is the ancient bucatine
Each strand of bucatini more ancient than the last.
from 2019.
What was I talking about before I got into the bucatine?
Amateur-ciana.
Yeah, you know the stuff.
Ketchup shortage. What
Oh,
about
yeah. I don't like ketchup.
All right. Is this a thing? Go off, King. Why don't you like
I
ketchup?
guess we gotta hear about this now.
All right. Is it something to do with Titanic?
I don't know. I've never seen it.
All right.
I don't have any strong feelings about ketchup.
Go off, sire.
I think hot sauce is better. I think mustard is better. I think salsa verde is better. I just think ketchup is
Why are
dull.
why are we comparing like centers and point guards? They're all players, I know, so they're all in the same league. But like, oh, I like Mitchell Robinson over R.J. Barrett. I'm like, whatever.
I mean, I'm just saying, ketchup on fries, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. But would you rather have mayo?
I love mayo. I love condiments, but I love ketchup. I think ketchup has a nice tang to it. It's sweet. Obviously, you shouldn't have too much of it because it'll give you the betis. But like, I love the tanginess to it. The unsung hero of ketchup is vinegar, and it's a nice treat
I
to
do
have.
like the vinegary element, but just in general, I don't know. Maybe I'm not getting the good stuff. But now that there's a shortage,
It's
who can
only
even say?
Heinz, and like, there's been podcasts. Shout out to the How Long Gone boys, but they did a whole thing about like you can't be having that organic Heinz ketchup. You just have to have Heinz ketchup, right?
I agree with that. If you're gonna have mayo, it has to be Hellman's. Yeah.
Oh, what about Kewpie, man? I'm a Kewpie boy.
By the way, just because I don't like your ketchup takes, Celtics beat the Knicks by 2.
Yeah, no shit. I'm watching it, dude. It's right in front of my dome. I'm getting a orange and blue tan right now. What do you think? 101.99. I mean, it's a coin flip. They're both the same team, so whatever. I'd rather have the Knicks team, to be honest.
So there's no real ketchup takes further then. There's just a shortage going on because everyone's ordering takeout and drive-through.
I have a ketchup question.
Okay. A question?
Is ketchup so out of style that, like hipsters like yourself don't like it anymore because, oh, you like mayonnaise on your fries? Has it become back into style because it's been hated so much? Is this sports cards?
I mean, you may think I'm a contrarian, but I only like catsup.
Go on.
I'm just using that spelling now, and I'm going to spell every Jeff with a G. Jeff.
That's fine with me.
Okay, good.
I told you for a while I tried to be British, right? So like I tried to, not with an accent, but I tried to call elevators lifts, calling lines queues, saying massive a lot. This was also during my era where I thought I was a grime artist. A yellow boy summer, some would say.
Can you give me an example of when you'd use massive?
Like if the Knicks beat the Celtics, I'd be like massive. Or if the Knicks move up closer to getting in the lottery, I'd be like, massive. That's when.
Yeah, I thought it would be more like that. Like, shout out to the Knicks, massive.
Well, like beating the Celtics is not a big deal. So
No.
it would just be a kind of mellow massive. But if the Knicks get closer into the lottery, it's massive.
Oh.
So I think ketchup is a fantastic condiment that is back in style. And the shortage is a big deal.
The English words that I've appropriated.
Don't drop the C word. Don't do it. Don't do it.
No, I haven't. Haven't appropriated that one. Let's see. I like supper.
I say supper a lot. But isn't
Sup-
that like a
supper's
South
nice.
thing? Like an American South thing?
Could be.
I like supper.
Instead of lemon seeds, I talked about this before, pips. That's a nice one.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we've had this conversation. I remember it now.
It
Pips.
was a great conversation, and it's only improving.
Oh, well, when we're at Clandestino as Drunken Canal Boys, shout out to that newspaper. Don't we get pints? We call them pints. Like, yo, get me a pint.
Yeah, I think so. They are in pint glasses.
Yeah, that's a British thing, right?
So there was the Drunken Canal. Then there was a response to the Drunken Canal, which was called the Sober Canal.
Is it the same people? Is this like some 23 Savage shit?
I don't think it was the same people. I think it was their haters, their detractors.
Ooh, Drunken Canal has haters now?
Yeah, because of the New York Times article.
That shoddy New York Times article? That didn't even mention Scar's Pizza?
That's the one. But apparently people didn't like that, so they made another newspaper called the Sober Canal that was like it's very rap battle.
Wow, media wars. I love it. It's like the Post versus the News.
I don't know if the Sober Canal is going to put out multiple issues or if it was just a kind of like one-off.
What is the content of the Sober Canal? Is it just mocking the Drunken Canal? Like, you were so drunk and we were sober.
But we're on the
Are they-
same street.
Are they cops? I know people think journalists are cops. I quite like journalists, but in a way they are all cops. But is this ratcheting up the cop behavior?
Never seen it. Can't say.
Does it exist? It won't exist, right? It's like
I
someone
think it exists, but I don't think it will continue to exist.
Right. It's like, when someone says, I've started a streetwear line, and, they don't have the supporters that we do on our Patreon. And they
Right,
put
like
out
they don't have like two
one
new
t-shirt.
crew necks coming out tomorrow.
Wow.
One
That's huge.
that says
I didn't know.
basketball, and the other one that also says basketball.
Wow, one more perfect than the other. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm all for more media, but save the trees, man. If you don't got some spicy takes, save the paper.
I respect that. So I'm sorry about the Knicks loss, and especially
I'm down
well,
for it.
you're fine. I know, but losing to a non-playoff team that stings.
I know, but the Knicks just playing NBA teams tough is like a win for me. I mean, they're gonna crawl back into their dirty ass room and stare at candles when the season's over.
Well, the Beantown Media Mafia has turned on the Celtics, and as a podcast that turned on the Celtics many moons ago, it is on one hand, it's nice to hear everyone saying the exact same things we've been saying for 2 years, that the Celtics are rebuilding,
The procedure.
the procedure, that you should trust it, that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown cannot coexist, that they're playing starless basketball. Like, these are all things that, as a Cookie listener, you
Marcus
have
Smart
known.
is a locker room cancer for sure.
You've known all this. That Brad Stevens is an AAU coach. Like, you know, every bit of this is familiar.
They're all parts
Well-
of perfect pods. Yeah.
Yeah, but now even the BMM is turning against the Celtics. So my natural inclination is to say, maybe it's time to give these guys a break.
Oh, so when the BMM zigs, you zag.
You kind of have to.
You know I love contrarianism, so like let's do this.
Less even being contrary than it is that the BMM is always flawed in some way. And
Yeah.
you saw when Ainge is like, look, I put the blame squarely on the shoulders of the players. Like, not you. the guy who constructed the team and drafted the players and signed the players and traded the players? This is on them? No, the team is amazing. They're a championship team. It's the players who are bad.
What was his exact quote?
It was, I put this squarely on the shoulder of the players.
He said that?
Yeah. He's
That's
like, organizationally,
awesome.
it's all of our
That's
fault, but this is we can't make the shots for these chumps.
Never trust a leprechaun, man.
Toxic culture.
Yeah, I mean, all right, we do fixate on the Celtics because, we're East Coast dudes, and the Sixers, Knicks, and Celtics have played each other a ton throughout our lives, and the BMM does exist, and we've unearthed them, and that's cool. But I'm with you. Let's talk about the Celtics in a real way, in a basketball way. And yeah, I think they still have something going for them, but until Ainge can pull the trigger, nothing's going to happen. You know how I always say, like, sometimes doing nothing is better than doing something, like whatever. He has to do something.
We've mentioned this, so because we talk about the Celtics a lot, but I do think that Kyrie trade and then him leaving made him even more gun shy than he normally is. And we know he's gun shy.
And he's admitted that, yeah.
He loves going out there and talking about how close he was to trading for a Paul George or a Jimmy Butler or an Anthony Davis or James Harden or whatever superstar came up. The Celtics are there on the phone wasting your time. Really? Yeah, totally.
Which was reported by Adrian Wojnarowski.
And the Celtics are just time bandits.
Yep.
That they aren't really serious about making trades, but they just want to get in your ear and learn who you want and who they want and what the prices are, as every front office probably should.
They're data miners.
Yes, but it also explains why the Celtics have been able to rip teams off a few times, but they don't seem to make that many functional trades.
Right.
They ripped off Dallas when they traded Rondo and got a pick, and they got Jay Crowder. Obviously, they ripped off Brooklyn, but overall,
no, they lost that Brooklyn trade. But fair, okay, I know what you say. I know what
in
you're
the
saying.
short term, they won that trade.
Yeah.
Billy King, longest view in the room.
Yeah.
But the overall point being that, I can't say I'm a big fan of this organization. Less than the players. The players are the guys. They hit in the drafts. The guys do what they're supposed to do. But organizationally, Ainge not making moves, there seems to be an issue with players leaving. Guys don't have any loyalty to this organization. And I honestly think some of that you can trace back to their treatment of Kevin Garnett and specifically Paul Pierce. We can talk about Paul Pierce in a second.
And Isaiah Thomas, too. That was a heartbreaker for everybody.
Yeah, and people noticed that
for sure.
You won us a title, and Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, those guys were able to retire as Celtics. And we squeezed every last bit of juice out of you and dumped you on the Nets when we were able to get some draft picks instead of letting you retire with the Celtics for your career the same way that Kobe or Dirk Nowitzki were able to do. And you just put us out to pasture when it made sense for the organization. I think players noticed that shit.
Oh, absolutely. And it has been discussed. Paul Pierce was heartbroken to be traded, and Garnett wasn't into it either. I mean, there's a sense of, I think, pride that I don't care about, but staying with one team. And Paul Pierce was that guy. And they kind of messed it up at the last second. And
well, it's one of those things. If you win a title for a team, the rules go out the window. Where it's hey, we did that. We actually don't need to immediately reboot for the future.
Yeah.
And the Mavs followed that dictum, right? Even though we kind of make fun of them for it. They let Dirk kind of suck for a few years. They were content to just let him play out his career, scoop up some lottery picks, and move on. They didn't say, hey, do you think we could get a little something for Dirk? Maybe we get a first-round pick, and we could have traded him off 2 years after the title?
Yeah, Jeannie Buss could have gotten a first-round pick for late Kobe, but then they signed him to a supermax.
Yeah, but again, they kind of played by the rules.
Yeah.
You're the face of the franchise. You spent your whole year here.
Yeah.
We'll let you finish it out.
Yep. Yeah. So I think I don't believe in culture. For example, the Knicks are good this year. So, it's like karma. Wherever you start culture and it works for you, you just pick a time. And the Celtics, allegedly have this like hollowed grounds and this basketball tradition, but like they're not good this year. So this is all coming up, and I think if they were rolling and a top 4 Eastern team, we wouldn't be relitigating any of this, right?
100%. I'm saying this toxic culture has been here the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not emergent because they're bad. It's just we're talking about it. I agree with you 100%. Like losing culture is just losing.
Yeah, and winning culture is just winning. Look at the Warriors. Like
same fucking organization, man.
Yeah.
A bunch of the same players. They're just older. They're just hurt.
Yeah, it's the same exact think tank. The front office is shuffled a bit, but like they are very bad because they have very bad, or they're not as good as they once were because they don't have great players anymore.
Yeah,
Injury, Durant, whatever.
I guess it wasn't Bob Myers and Steve Kerr.
No, it was like Andre Iguodala was awesome, and you got him for nothing.
It was having like 5 All-Stars. Yeah, it was the All-Stars part.
Yeah, and that's not taking anything away because I'd rather be good than culturally good. I would just rather be good, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And the Celtics are not good, and I think I delight in, as a Knicks fan, the reveal that.
But if we're talking, sorry, I'm only cutting you off because when we say culturally good, it could be culturally good as incompetent, or it can be culturally good as in you do the right thing by your guys. And I think Boston has shown that they will never do the right thing by their guys, and players know it. That's different from just drafting poorly.
Right,
making some shitty trades. No one thinks the Celtics are bad at those things.
Yeah, there's layers to this, right? Because I don't even believe in culturally good or bad exists even on those terms. Because when you lose games with a purpose, I would argue that's culturally good, but probably.
I'm not talking about anything on the court. I'm saying trading Paul Pierce was grimy. That was fucked up. They should not have done that.
Oh, I don't care about that at all.
But you can say, I don't care about that, but it was fucked up. It doesn't change the fact that it's fucked up whether you care about it or not, because Paul Pierce cares about it. And you're building an organization where you're supposed to have, like, the halls of Celtics lore. You're supposed to be that organization, and you didn't care.
Oh, this is an interesting conversation because I just don't care about any of that. I think the sooner we free ourselves of authenticity, we'll have more fun. And these players should do whatever they want, and these organizations have always done whatever they want. So, like, no one should depend on this idea of sanctity ever, because this is not a place where that happens. This is not family. This is business, right?
Well, for sure. But when you steep your team in traditionalism, and it's the Garden and the legacy and how proud people are to play for this team, then there is a business element here where when you
mean family element.
Oh, no, I'm saying there is a business element.
Okay, right. When
you do Paul Pierce dirty and everyone knew it, and you did Isaiah Thomas dirty and everyone knew it.
Sort of like how Paul Pierce did his Celtic shorts dirty in the playoff game. Okay, go on.
He sullied his pants and his reputation. No, but I was going to say, there is a business consequence, and that's that Kyrie Irving just bounces after telling you he's going to stay.
That's tough to have that kind of causality to it, though, because Kyrie Irving may be left for a whole bunch of reasons. He seems like he's a very complex, interesting guy with multitudes, and I'm not sure if he would be like, well, the Celtics do players dirty. I don't think that would be his first explanation of it. I think he'd just be like, I don't like the city of Boston, which he kind of has said, right?
No doubt. I'm also saying I do believe that there can be a business consequence to treating players poorly, that other players are not going to take your organization that seriously.
Well, what consequences are we pointing out here? Like, Gordon Hayward left. Terry Rozier left.
Al Horford.
Al Horford. I think they could have weathered those consequences and still been good.
I mean, all those guys left for more money.
Yeah. And
then Kyrie left because he wanted to leave Boston. He actually went with less money.
They got their 2 young players to re-sign for big. I mean, it's pretty easy to convince players at that, salary range, that salary timing to.
You
get
can't
that.
even. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
with you.
I'm not even talking about that. Yeah.
I mean, I don't even disagree with what you're saying. I'm just
Yeah.
saying they have not had someone who is an unrestricted free agent re-sign with them that I can think of.
Yeah.
Because Tatum, Smart, and Brown don't count.
I mean,
You know.
Kemba chose them, right?
He did.
And he was a really valuable player that summer. And what happened later is unfortunate for everyone because we all love Kemba Walker, but he doesn't seem like he's healthy.
I mean, Kemba is a good example of guys not caring. This happened right after Kyrie was leaving, and it happened right after what they did to Isaiah Thomas. And he's like, I would like to be your new albatross.
Yeah, yes, I too would like to be an albatross in green.
He's like, my knee is completely shot. I would love to join the Boston.
Yeah, I mean, I am so done with this idea of culture in sports that I just kind of as a thing don't even consider it playing into anything because someone's taste, like Giannis staying with the Bucks, is that because they have a strong culture? I don't know. Sure,
I'm with you. I just feel like I like the idea that there is some penance for Boston doing players dirty. While we all acknowledge players and front office and ownership, everyone acknowledges that this is a business and you make decisions based on that. I do think saying we're just going to ship you off because we can get a draft pick.
Yeah,
I do think it's kind of gross. Garnett, he wasn't a lifer. He was only there like 5 years. Ray Allen bounced.
Of all time.
Rondo was still young enough, like that was in play. But Paul Pierce was fucking washed.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they should have kept him, I think, as a spiritual thing. In the same way, I think, like, the Knicks should have signed Jeremy Lin to a minimum contract just for good vibes, Like, you don't have to do much. And I do believe in vibes and thoughts and prayers. Like, I'm very much into that. So, like, and I know there's a fine line between that and culture. But you have a point, right? Like, I think there's some truth to some players being like, yo, the Knicks are fucked up. I don't want to play there. That's totally true. And I do think, to your point, some players like Anthony Davis are like, I know the Celtics want me, but like, why would I want to go there? LeBron's in LA. I'd rather play for a not fucked up franchise.
I mean, we saw players seem to be upset about the Isaiah Thomas thing.
That was dirty. He's a short.
To me,
king,
to me, that was actually not as bad as the Pierce thing. The Pierce thing was just so gross. It's like he's like 30. He was like 36 years old. Like,
he had some good
trade him
seasons
off.
well, he had some nice games in the Nets, maybe.
Yeah, he was all right. He ended up playing like 3 more years, so you could make the argument that like he told us he wanted to play more 3 more years, and we weren't having it.
Well, as we found out this week, it wasn't the first time he'd been fired. He would be fired in his life, because little did he know he would be a controversial but successful analyst on ESPN, and then for just some like extracurricular activities that have nothing to do with work, he has his own social media presence. ESPN has no jurisdiction on what he does on his Saturdays. But
So as the strip club king, do you want to describe what happened?
Well, he was having an adult night with some adult friends, drinking some adult beverages.
And beverage.
And beverage. He had one beverage. And by the end of it, he posted a video of all the adult celebrations, because it is a Saturday and we're alive, aren't we? Mm-hmm. And Disney, Mickey Mouse
COVID's been over for weeks ago. He was wearing his tuxedo.
He's wearing his tuxedo, and his pants were unsullied. And Mickey Mouse decided he didn't want any of that smoke.
So my understanding of this is that he only had like 2 months left on his contract.
I later found out that they wanted to re-up him, and they were happy with him.
Oh, they may have wanted to re-up him, but
yeah.
It was less like suspend him than bring him back and then decide. It was like, okay, we're done then.
Yeah, it was.
If he had 6 months on his contract left, they probably would have suspended him for, let's say, a month and a half or a month, and then brought him back and been like, then we'll decide down the line. But I think because it was like now
Yeah.
that they're like, well, if we take you off the air, which we now have to do, then it basically means we have to like re-up you and bring you back then. I don't know if they were happy with him or not. Who can say? I mean, he was pretty funny. He was a terrible analyst, but he was an entertaining guy.
I don't. There's no analyst that I think is like good in terms of getting stuff right. But I really loved him because not only was he funny, he was like very personable and grouchy, and I thought that was just like a great combination of things for someone on my television. Like, I love Shaq, I love Barkley, like I don't care about Kenny Smith, you know? And so anytime we get a personality on our TV, like, we should protect them because that's what makes it fun, right?
I mean, Pierce being roasted was one of the funnier parts of that broadcast. I don't really watch it. His basketball takes were typically really abysmal, like just not knowing who won a game and making a point.
Oh, I love it.
Completely wrong. I mean, some of that stuff is funny.
It just
it's
doesn't
entertainment.
matter. Yeah, it just doesn't matter.
Or his, leaving. I'm just coming up with stuff. Leaving LeBron off the top 10 players of all time, or whatever. Just absurd shit that Paul Pierce would do. I think that's all fine. Like, you don't want him there to be a great analyst.
Dude, I think during a playoff coverage, he admitted that he had pooped his pants. Like, not to be weird, that takes some bravery. And, like, he was, like, shy and laughing about it. And I was like, you're super cool, man. This is funny. Like, and everyone roasted him. And he was like, I had to go to the bathroom. Like, I don't know. There's something really cool about that, I thought.
I remember I watched his interview with Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes on All the Smoke. He talked about getting stabbed. And I started liking him a whole lot after that. When he
got
was
stabbed
talking
11
about,
times, man.
But he was just talking about how much PTSD he had, and that he had 24-hour security, and he was carrying a gun everywhere, and he was afraid to leave the house, and he was just depressed.
Yeah.
Like that really ruined his life. And again, I think that vulnerability to admit that he pooped his pants, to admit that he was, depressed about being stabbed, instead of just being stoic and saying like, yeah, it was nothing. I got sewn up and I was right back at it. I think all that stuff is interesting, and his terrible takes are amusing. That said, like, I don't know, man, it's just one more Celtic off the air.
Well, we'll see, because I'm not even claiming this is mine. The Le Batard dudes had this idea that he orchestrated this whole thing to, like, up his celebrity value, and he's going to get snatched up by, like, I don't know, Fox Sports or something. I mean, it's just like a fun way to think about it, but...
I mean, so back to that point, if he has 2 months left and they're unsure if they want to re-up him,
yeah,
maybe I don't know.
Like, ESPN is not that hot. Like, no one wants to be at ESPN in 2021 anymore, right? Like, if like Spotify was like, Paul Pierce, we want you to do a podcast, he'd be like, yes. Like, I want to be that guy. But to your point, like, the one thing about those videos that, I mean, I always do this, that's kind of melancholy, right? Like, he's entering that part of his life where I'm like, is he drinking too much? Because, like, it seemed like he was glazed over, and sometimes on the air he looked like he was kind of out of it. I'm like, can, like, one of his super homies check in on him, like, on, like, a vibe level? Because he seems to be kind of unspooling a little bit.
I don't think that's an unfair assessment. I don't really know what happened in that video. I've seen clips from it, and I know the content. I don't know how it transpired. I mean, it looked as if, was he in a hotel room?
It was his house, I believe.
His house? Right, and it seemed like he got drunk with people there and then thought, you know what? Now it's time for me to go live.
Right, and
It's just a terrible fucking decision.
Yes, right. And I'm not even talking about him drinking or him doing adult things that are very normal. I'm just like, yo, why'd you post that? Why'd you forget the outcome of the game? These are, like, very simple things that should be transactional that you're missing. Like, are you okay?
Right. Were you fully blackout drunk and you went live without thinking about it? But if that's the case, you didn't have someone who cares about you hit you up immediately and tell you to stop?
Yeah.
Like, your phone wasn't just blowing up with people saying, dude, stop.
Yeah. I mean, remember he posted that image of the rocket emoji as a JPEG instead of just typing in the rocket. I think
did.
the DeAndre Jordan thing, right?
Yep.
Which is like, I really love this guy. He's like, he wants to participate, but he's just kind of off. But lately it seems like, I don't know, he was spacey a little bit this year on air, as we're all going through a traumatic thing. I think they could have easily just been like, yo, he's taking some personal time and he'll be back for the playoffs, and it could have been fine.
And maybe he will come back. Who can say?
Yeah, but one less BMM is it's a small step, but it's still a step.
Yeah, I hate that it had to be Paul.
But is it the Brooklyn media mafia that we're erasing?
Think of this, man. Think of this. Paul screwed over by the Celtics. In return for screwing him over, they make him a member of the BMM. Like, sorry, business only. We'll put you on TV.
Yeah.
Here he is, screwed over again by the BMM. The guy cannot catch a break.
Man.
Paul Pierce, victim of the BMM.
Brooklyn Nets a legend.
So KD played today.
How do you look?
Tall, skinny, made some shots.
Was he bitter? Was he on his phone responding to some troll?
I mean, now we can just move along to other social media indignities. Kevin Durant.
He's in his feelings a lot, man.
Insulting your man, like your day one Michael Rappaport.
Knicks legend Michael Rappaport.
You love that dude.
He loves to get litigation going, man. Apparently he loves to threaten to sue people, which is, it's Giuliani-ass behavior, and he's very of that era in New York City.
When New York comes back this crazy summer, I am fighting outside of Catch Seafood at 10 a.m. constantly. Or was it Catch Steak? I think it was 10 a.m. outside of Catch Steak. We're fighting.
Why is it called Catch Steak? Shouldn't it be Catch Seafood?
Well, it was the original one, which is in the meatpacking, is Catch, which is a seafood restaurant.
I'll catch these hands.
So they rebranded another Catch, but this one has steak.
Hey, man. Durant, it's a good thing he's amazing at basketball, right? Because he doesn't seem like he's very good at other things, but that was solid trash talk. It was like two guys. One guy I quite love on the court. Another guy, he was fine in movies. I like Do the Right Thing. Michael Rappaport was great in that GOAT movie. But they seem like tough dudes to chill with, because they themselves don't seem that chill.
I'm not sure what led to that exchange. I guess it was Michael Rappaport questioning him on TV or something.
Something like that.
It was
Some
just
disrespect.
Some disrespect, and then he was called a pasty cocksucker, or some array of those kind of insults.
Very blunt and adult words, for sure.
Various permutations of alabaster and oral sex, just interspersed, pale, pasty, and so forth.
I mean, what 90s ass dudes, right? And I know Durant is a millennial, but these guys are still listening to Mobb Deep for sure. For sure.
You porcelain fellatio.
Did I ever tell you the time I was going into a Knicks game and I saw Rappaport out like where people were lining up to like swipe tickets, and he was having like an episode where he was like, not an episode, he was flustered because I overheard him saying he's usually a VIP and gets through the VIP entrance and they refused him, and he was just aghast at because they didn't know who he was, which seems like a MSG problem after what happened to Patrick Ewing. But he was just like dumbfounded, and I was like, yo, respect to Michael Rappaport, who was an actor. Was he in Do the Right Thing? Am I getting that twisted? That was Turturro.
When I think of Rappaport movies, I believe he was in Higher Learning.
Uh-huh.
He was in.
Gotta Google this shit.
Was he in Zebrahead?
These are some. The Zebrahead soundtrack was good, right? Am I making that up?
I don't even remember.
This was the era of the soundtrack, though.
Mm-hmm.
They made movies to sell CDs. It seemed like.
100%.
Right.
But yeah, I'm not sure of his full filmography, but he has not been like in a successful movie probably in 15 years, right? If not 20.
Which is all good. You know, he's had like a dream career for sure. His IMDb page is no joke. But I'm just going back to the beginning. You hit it on Zebrahead. He was Point of No Return, Poetic Justice, True Romance. These are all good movies. I don't know, man. Like, he was in the Basketball Diaries. It's tough to have, like, be a Knicks fan and your number one fan is Michael Rappaport. But then again, who has a cool
here?
thing?
You want me to really take you into the bowels of this discussion?
Since we're talking about Paul Pierce, let's go for it.
I don't even remember what was said, but I was on hand for some marketing event that was at Barclays Center, I want to believe, and it was a conversation between Michael Rappaport and Spike Lee about basketball.
That I would love to be a fly on the wall for that. Was it amazing?
I don't even remember. They probably just bemoaned technical fouls and talked about Connie Hawkins. I don't know.
Did they mention Bernard King? Just give me
Sure.
something.
How could you not?
Yeah.
The Starks dunking on the Bulls.
Did they say Clyde the Glide?
I mean, yeah, it was all that. Except that it was in Barclays Center, so it was supposed to be about the Knicks versus the Nets rivalry, and Rappaport was supposed to be the Brooklyn guy, even though I think he's from Long Island, but I'm not sure. But he ended up kind of pretending he was the Brooklyn guy and then admitting that he was the Knicks guy, so it was quite a fiasco. I'm glad I could tell our listeners about that.
Can I bring up like a weird Knicks thought that I've been having lately that's kind of dark, but I don't want it to be dark because I love Clyde Frazier so much? He's losing it a little bit. And there was, at one point, they were playing, and Pablo Prigioni, I think, is a coach on, I forget which team. No,
he wasn't from Long Island. He's from he grew up on the Upper East Side.
Okay.
Anyway.
But anyway, Clyde Frazier has been like throughout the Knicks like horrific, like the century. Clyde Frazier has been like the joy, I think, in Knicks fans' lives. Like, he's awesome. He's self-effacing. He makes fun of the team. He's also a homer. He's like, what do you want me to do? I love this team. I'm a Knick. He's got the best style. Like, he is the best. And he's just like, this season, he's kind of out of it. So he saw Pablo Prigioni on his TV, and he was like, Mike Breen. He was like, Mike, who is that guy? Why do I know him? And Mike Breen was like, Pablo Prigioni? Ex-Knick point guard? And he was like, yeah, Prigioni. And he said it 3 times as if to remind himself who it was. And I was like, yo, can you take this guy off the air and like give him a throne to sit on? Because like time sucks and following basketball is a chore and it takes so much effort. And we need to just like celebrate this dude now, I think.
I mean, he's 76.
Dude.
You think of like Marv Albert, not very good at recognizing players at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, not everyone can be Hubie Brown. Like, that guy will be in the grave, like
I like
calling
Hubie
out
Brown.
plays. No, he rules.
Yeah, he's really great. And I remember earlier this year, Clyde got something wrong. And he was like, Mike, it's time for me to hang it up. And Breen was like, Clyde, promise me you're never going to retire. And I was like, I know that feeling, but I'm just like, you know how like I've never had like a voice of a sports team like age with me like this, but New York has had some tragic stories. Like No Sin Bin, the Yankees had Bobby Mercer die of brain cancer in his prime, and I love Tim McCarver, and Phil Rizzuto was like my favorite dude. No Sin Bin, but like he is my favorite sports voice ever in my life. So when he died, it was like particularly heartbreaking. Clyde's gonna be the same, and I'm like you said, he's 77, man. It's like I got to go to Wine and Dine as soon as this COVID thing is lifted, which it was a few weeks ago.
Mike Breen's 59. He's got another decade and a half.
Breen is sick. Breen is
He's amazing.
He's awesome. Yeah. It doesn't get better than Breen, I don't think, in my opinion.
But a lot of these guys, you just kind of have to let them go on forever and just deal with it, and then you view them as treasures. You
That's
know,
fair. Yeah.
like Tommy Heinsohn. Just let him go forever.
Yeah.
All right. So, as I said, same thing with Marv.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
fair.
Marv isn't even close half the time.
Yeah. I mean, like, I guess that's true. Like Chick Hearn or something.
And then they can retire from
Vince Scully.
broadcasting and then run for president.
So you're saying Clyde Frazier at the ripe age of 80-something will be going up against Obi Toppin in the primaries?
With the right to take on young upstart Joe Biden.
A young whippersnapper. No malarkey.
Did you watch the NCAA tournament? I obviously did not. I turned on the closing seconds of the game between Gonzaga and UCLA, just because group chats were popping. Everyone was saying it was an excellent game.
Well, you're on group chats with some degenerate gamblers. Shout out to our buddies Mills Moran and the Dizza 3000.
Just calling them out as degenerate gamblers.
Yeah, so they always like send spreads to us and stuff, and like Vegas odds, and I'm just like, yo, you hit big last night, what'd you walk away with? And they're like, $25. I'm like, oh, you guys are doing this super fun. Like, oh yeah, nothing big. Like a $300 balance, with my bookie.
Way to walk it back. Yeah, but anyway, people were talking about the game. I turned it on, and I saw the last few possessions, and it's amazing to watch college ball because I saw the big white guy on Gonzaga, and it took like 10 seconds for me to dislike him. Just like immediately. I'm like, the headband, the hair, I'm like, who's this guy that I dislike?
Corey Kispert. Kispert.
No, it wasn't that guy. It was the guy whose last name was like Len or something.
Oh. Yeah.
The big white guy in Gonzaga. The guy who...
With the mustache.
Yeah, the guy who... I don't even know if he has a mustache, maybe. He went crazy in the overtime.
Yeah. I mean...
I don't know who these guys are.
Okay.
But I'm like, college basketball will always do that to me. I will dislike someone within seconds.
Which is always surprising to me because you're a YMCA warrior, and these guys are future YMCA warriors.
That's true.
But yeah,
it's just out of self-protection. I'm worried about facing this guy at the Greenpoint YMCA.
Dude, stars don't want to see young players come and take their job. No one wants to be Wally pipped during the pandemic. So you haven't been going to the YMCA because you're responsible and you want to do the right thing in the quar. Meanwhile, these guys from Gonzaga are just balling out.
Yeah, they're just going to have that extra step on me.
I mean, I had a pretty busy week last week, but I watched as much as I could. It was nice to have it again. I think it is really annoying how they're not paid, but I do love college basketball because it's sloppy as hell, and a lot of these guys are going to be NBA players. The women's bracket is just as fun because UConn is just really fun to root against, and they went down in the Final Four. I really enjoy like this kind of basketball ushering in spring. That said, they got to start paying these players. We know all this. We have to, every time we talk about the NCAA, we have to mention it. It's unethical for them not to pay these working people, Americans. They're not even kids. They're working Americans. Like, but NBA wise, it was fun to see like Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley. I don't know, your boy Jalen Suggs.
Without tipping the hand.
Oh, the KBB?
Of the KBB.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us who is your favorite prospect right now that you saw in the tournament?
Cade
Give us a little. What'd you like about him? Because the Knicks are too good, so now you can.
Knicks are officially too good, man.
Knicks are too good for him.
Yeah, Cade. I don't know, Minnesota bound probably. To pull back a second, this draft was supposed to be chock full of future stars, maybe a few perennial all-stars. but I think the shine on that has kind of diminished as we're watching them play. You know, they're young guys, so there's small sample size. These guys aren't quite what I thought. Cade is still awesome, and he's a really tall guard who scores. He reminds me of Brandon Roy. Really collected, smart, like calling off screens at the right time, setting up the right like looks for his teammates. He has amazing court awareness, but like not anything close to LaMelo Ball. There is no dominant like Shaq big here, and there is no genius here. So Cade Cunningham is my number one, bona fide. Don't even think about it. Just take him number one. Don't even think about Mobley until pick number 3 or 4. Not to tip my hand, but like Cade went out early. He looked sloppy. He looked frustrated. He got double teamed and trapped a lot, and like fumbled and bumbled some crucial possessions. You still just take him number one.
You know, it's funny. We were talking about the Celtics earlier, and I don't think you can say they made poor decisions when they drafted Tatum. Like, that was the right move. That was slick. They got a first-round pick. They traded back. They got their guy. Jaylen Brown was a good pick.
For sure.
They did the right moves. Marcus Smart. They made good calls. They got guys who worked for their system. But sometimes you just get unlucky. That draft doesn't work out the way that it should. And there's nothing you can do about that. And we talked about the Wizards from, a decade ago. John Wall, number 1 pick. He was the right guy. Bradley Beal, hit on that one. Otto Porter, very good player.
Yeah.
Okay. You didn't get, your top 10 guy. You just didn't get him. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't for lack of insight. It wasn't for bad scouting. He just wasn't there for you to take.
And there's a lot that goes into that recipe, right? Because if we think about a team like the Timberwolves, Karl-Anthony Towns is exactly what you hope for. He's not perfect, but he's an all-star. He's great. You missed on LaMelo Ball, but like you still got I'm blanking on his name, dunked on.
I think Anthony Edwards looks pretty good.
He's good, but I mean, I'll always remember him as a player that went before LaMelo Ball, whatever. I think if you want to compare them to the Knicks roster, New York would be going insane if they had Edwards and Cat. Just bonkers. Mm-hmm. But that's not a good team, right? And the Knicks don't have any of that stuff.
It's the worst team in basketball. I mean, granted, they've had some injuries, and Cat's been sick, and Russell's been out, but they do have a 13-38 record.
And that's what I mean. So much goes into that, and I don't think any of it's culture. I think it's just like a bad fit. Maybe these players aren't. I don't think Edwards is. Edwards is going to be fine. He's going to be he's going to sign a max contract, but I don't think he's good. He has promise, but he's not good yet.
Is he a cooler version of Wiggins?
Wiggins is really cool, though. I doubt Wiggins in many ways, but Wiggins, I think, looks very cool. He looks like a cooked Bucatine, man. But Edwards is like a very.
But Wiggins is decidedly uncool as like a personality. That doesn't mean that he's lame. He's quiet. He's reserved. Like, he wears his headphones. He listens to music. He minds his own business. Anthony Edwards is like amazing. He's the coolest personality out of any young guy right now.
If you were like a fun-loving young guy, let's say like Mitchell Robinson, and you had a big splash of an offseason, it's like, who'd we get? You're like, we somehow got Anthony Edwards. You'd be like, oh, it's on. That guy's going to be my homie, right? But then if they were like, we had a big splash, we got Andrew Wiggins, he's like, oh, cool. Maybe we'll get along later. Wiggins doesn't have a vibe. He seems melancholy. Second time I used that word, but him and Weissman on the court at the same time, that's a sad boy team.
I agree. I was watching them play the Sixers recently.
Yeah.
And I was just like, no reflection on their ability. I'm so glad I don't have to watch this team night in and night out.
Dude, they look sad.
They might just have resting sad face. They could
totally
be fucking ebullient for all we know. Like, this is the greatest moment of my life. But you look at them, and all you can think is, these guys are losers.
Well, what I thought with Weissman was like, we've seen so many big kids be forced to play basketball. I'm like, are we sure this kid loves playing? Because his NCAA history was like, it's hard to tell what happened. He didn't play that many games in Memphis, and like he was so highly touted as his high school guy, but like it seems like he's kind of emo and moved to be with his mom, and I'm not from all of his body language, and it doesn't tell us that much because like you said, they could be happy. I'm like, are we sure he loves to play hoops? Is Draymond Green in his head? We don't know, you know?
No, I think you're right. Look, I'm only talking visually.
Yeah, they don't look happy.
I mean, anyone who's in the NBA, anyone who's the first pick in the draft, you're not a loser.
No,
You're
no.
a tremendous winner. But yes, their body energy when you're watching them play, you don't want to be a Warriors fan because like it doesn't look cool.
Yeah, and it doesn't.
Everyone looks vaguely scared and sad simultaneously.
And isn't it so odd because we know Steph Curry as like this joyous player who was asked by Steve Kerr to like just enjoy the game on his level and like take those threes, do what makes you happy on the court. And like him and Clay and Dre, it felt like a joyous kind of run. I mean, they were very good, and happiness comes with winning, of course, and they were just incredible. But it's odd to see these sad boys play with Curry, who still has that vibe that he's just like doing his thing, but like light years behind, man. Like what? Just questionable decisions everywhere. Acquiring Wiggins, drafting Weissman over LaMelo, like just poor decision making.
Before we get out of here, I have some great news for all the Timberwolves fans. Here's your side by side of 19-year-old Andrew Wiggins and 19-year-old Anthony Edwards.
Does Edwards crush him?
Here's Wiggins: 17 points, 4.5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, half a block, 31% from three. Now I'm sorry, that was the other one around.
Wow, great job on that.
No,
Fantastic.
No, they're both 17 points, 4.5 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 block, half a steal, 31% from three. Their stats are literally identical.
Edwards is having a trash rookie year, and he still might be good, but like it is what it is, right? Like RJ.
I'm not even out on Edwards. I'm just
not
pointing
either.
out that after all of that, like, Wiggins. All right, we're rid of him.
Yeah.
His numbers are fucking identical.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is why I love the NCAA tournament, and I love the draft, everything leading up to it, because it's all a bunch of just like make believe. We just project everything we want to talk about just onto these random players that like don't represent anything because we don't know enough. And you know, when they say RJ Barrett, when Knicks fans say RJ Barrett is like improving so much, like he started at like a historically bad level in his rookie year, and he's getting better, but he's still a well below average NBA player. Ben Simmons comes into the league, and he's already an all-star. So it's like he hasn't improved. I'm like, yeah, because he came in as like elite. So like I love this random speculation. It's like the stock market or gambling or the art market, right? And it's funny like seeing a shot like the one Jalen Suggs hit and how that changes the perception of him. But it was a lucky shot, right? And like he put himself.
My take on that, I don't think it was too inventive, was that I found it completely unimpressive. I was like, that sucks. That sucks.
I mean, you're with Skip Bayless on it, who went kind of viral because he was like, that was a great game. I love Skip. That was
I didn't see him do that. My just response to it immediately was, it's a bank. Like that's a miss. That ball just happened to go in.
Yeah.
And not even in a fun way.
Yeah.
Like you overshot by a foot and a half.
And I don't even mind that because Jalen Suggs is like a wonderful player. And up until that point, he had proved how fucking good he was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's just awesome, right? Still, you know, not as enticing as LaMelo to me, in my opinion. But I value different things. Jalen Suggs, like, this was his star turn. And him getting just roughed up in the championship game kind of takes the shine off of that lucky shot. But there's so many Kobe shots that went in that were like glass. Everyone make that. The whole nature of that last second shot is just luck, right? It's built in.
Well, the only reason I would say you really just hold glass against it is that anytime you make a three from straight ahead and it goes off the glass, you kind of have to like roll your eyes. I mean, Randall literally did it in the game earlier today. He hit a three. It was like, I know that doesn't count. I mean, they're going to give me three, but I know. Yeah. We all know. We're all on the same page here. That was some bullshit.
I mean, it's funny. I love this conversation because it's like, what is the intent? The intent's for the ball to go in. Are we saying if a ball doesn't touch the rim and just goes through the net that it was a better execution, or was it like
hell yes we are.
What if a bad player swishes it? You know, it's just like I think he got the result he wanted, and it was more exciting because it was
right.
random.
Oh, I mean, I'm saying a bank shot from dead on is a miss. That's a miss. You worse than bricked it. You totally missed that shot and it went in. You were on target. That's nice.
Yeah.
But like, it's way worse than just a brick, because a brick would have hit the back of the iron or, you know, somewhere the back of the rim. Like, you missed by a good foot. You weren't even that close.
Yeah. Oh, I love glass. Period. Like, but you know, there could be a situation if you talk to like a basketball player and being like, you know, like I don't have good depth perception that far away from the rim, so it's wiser for me to line it up. Whatever, I don't know, but like I think we make fun of boomers and then we become boomers, right? Being like, that's not a real 2 or 3, and I'm like, it's real enough to me, man.
Well, I mean, we all acknowledge that it counts, and if someone was, you know, on the wing shooting like an above the break 3 and it banked, you'd be like, maybe he tried it. But again, Julius Randle's expression earlier today says it all.
I mean, I love this YMCA behavior.
No one even takes credit for it. It's like, I know.
This is on the YMCA dry erase board, day 1. Bank shots do not count. You have to call glass, right?
I mean, have you played Utah, like on the playground?
Have I played Mitchell Robinson? I mean, Donovan Mitchell.
So, like, the game Utah is like the New York City version of 21. I'm not telling you. I'm telling the beloved listeners. Mm-hmm. And some of the rules are that like the shot can't hit the rim. Mm-hmm. So it even is like built into the rules of like basketball permutations that when you shoot a foul shot and it hits the rim, it doesn't count.
Yet inferior players have definitely beat better players in Utah, right? Like inferior players have switched shots where better players are like, that touched the rim, you know?
Oh, it's thoroughly possible. Yeah.
Oh, but almost definite, right?
But I'm saying that rule is in play because there is an inherent skill level to swishing a shot that makes it harder to do than making a shot that glances off the iron in some, you know, way, shape, or form.
I mean, I love this. This is the bridge and tunnel conversation. What is the authentic way to do it, right? It's like glass, not authentic. Commuting from New Jersey, not authentic. And I don't know, like, you've convinced me to think that was even a greater shot than I thought it was in the beginning. I don't know, you know, like, Jalen Suggs is a great, great college player, and that shot could have come from anybody, but it went in.
You know, I feel like if you throw in a shot from like really, really, really deep, you know, like a heave and it banks in, then we're all on the same page, right? That was just luck. Like you aimed at the right place and it went in. And that I actually give almost, the bank is fine.
So we're literally moving goalposts. Like we're literally moving the goalposts on this discussion.
Right. What I'm saying, if you pull up a normal ass shot and you bank it in, like even if it's a deep one, but you're shooting like a regular shot, then like, man, you just missed it. Yeah. But it counts. You know, you win the title or you go to the Final Four or whatever it is. Cool. But if you're just throwing like a baseball pass full court, we all are acknowledging like maybe this goes in.
Oh God,
like, it's possible.
They should do NBA scores like tests where they test on a curve, so they get rid of the high and the low grades. So the easiest shot you take is taken away, and the most bullshit shot you make is taken away too. It would just be 4 points either way, or 5. I mean,
I think you should interrogate players about their intentions.
How authentic
after every basket? Like, okay, you wanted to take a 3, but your toes on the line? I said we don't count it. You wanted a 3 and you made a shorter shot. That's some bullshit. Doesn't count.
Listen, you hit that game-winning shot from half court, but it was off glass. So where's the best bagel city in America?
I know you can have your shoddy, tarnished, tainted trophy. No, yeah, absolutely. No, go. You won. Yeah, go to the Final Four. That was a great shot. You guys totally shouldn't have lost on that weird block call a while back, or that charge.
Yo, you're up in this club. You're throwing money at strippers. But where did you come? Did you cross a bridge or go under a tunnel to get here? The Holland Tunnel.
I mean, doesn't everyone?
We're all just
We're all just making perfect pots.
trying to make a Cellar Dwellers joke, but it's too much nice.
I love cookies.
And that's why this is perfect. You knew that.
Yeah, it was shaky for a second, but as soon as we got the Cellar Dwellers reference in, another it vaulted this pod to a half-court shot, swish, no glass.
You almost banked this pot home, but it actually switched.
Oh, thankfully.
Ah, yes. Cookies.
Cookies.